Hello guys and welcome to a special episode of the Gibson Show where today I am joined by Nico from Blast. Nico is the CIO of Blast, and if you don't know what that means, he's the Chief Information Officer.
That's
Innovation?
correct. I was just about to say I don't know what it means either,
So,
but I do.
Nico, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah. My jet lag has passed. I feel good. Had a delicious breakfast this morning, completely unrelated for you guys at home, but yeah, it was great. Excited to be here.
We've not had breakfast yet. I'm still really hungry.
Hang on.
I've had a bottle
like
of water.
lunch soon.
Yeah, a bottle of water. That's what I've had
wow.
so far.
Sounds
so,
like a diet.
How are you enjoying SI?
I think it's great. I think it's great. Obviously, we're doing tons of press talking about this new partnership, but it feels good. You know, I went to the Berlin Major as well, and I think just seeing the Siege community and seeing how it's different from other communities that I've been part of, that we've delivered shows in, I feel like it's magical in like its own way. So yeah, pleasantly surprised, and it was great to see that what I was excited by in Berlin definitely carries over to Montreal as well.
So, as we speak right now, there's a pretty big game going on now involving Astralis, who a lot of people know are an org that are something to do with the home of Blast. Any preference for? Do you have any preference for Astralis or any teams that you've seen over the course of the last few days?
No preference at all. Completely unbiased. And yeah, it's great. Like right behind the camera, people won't be able to see this. There's a huge screen, so we can get a little cheeky peek when we want to see it. But no, I think for those who don't know our history, you know, I started at Refresh, which we were called back in the beginning, as the third employee through the door. Back then we had Astralis as a team, Heroic as a team, and I think back then it was a team's business. And in our growth, and as I was part of the group that created Blast, from like a conceptual point of view was my role. Ever since then, we kind of split up internally inside that organization. So, you know, it's always hard to talk about, you know, unbiased and how we try to treat them differently. It was obviously, let's call it strange, that we had, you know, a team that we owned, and we all of a sudden had a Counter-Strike league that we owned, and the team was playing in that league. So I can understand that fans never really believed that there was no conflict of interest. But I think for those who work there, especially myself, you know, I spent majority of my time on Blast. Everyone else that was on Astralis spent their time on Astralis. And I think we went to pretty big lengths to make sure that no one felt Astralis were getting preferential treatment. So no, it's always good to see, you know, what once was a family member, you know, still active in another game as well. So yeah, no.
Yeah, I think like as someone who works in the scene and works as a caster, there are teams that you have a preference for, you know, because you like, you know, you're friends with them, but you know, it's a small, in esports it is a small world still.
Right.
So you'll have a preference to these players and teams, but I think when it comes to the professional side, you leave all that at the door, you know.
You have to.
Yeah.
For sure.
But it is nice to see people doing well, you know, whenever you're friends with them. So,
of course.
You were obviously part of the group that founded Blast, you know, were part of that first group in the door. Was esports always where you wanted to go, or whenever you were first, you know, getting into the working world? Like, tell me about how you ended up in that role.
My own personal journey. Well, so I had like a pretty crazy, I feel like, period of youth. You know, I never fit into school. I weren't good in school, but I didn't like school. I knew that this was never going to work, and I knew that I would never get any higher education because the way that school teach you things just didn't resonate with it at all. I couldn't learn that way. I think I'm very hands-on in how I learn. So I found myself in like all these strange paths, but always loved video games, always played video games, and I think I was in the military when I really began playing Counter-Strike a lot, too much. I would play all night and then go to military service and then go back to the cafe at night. Yeah, I don't know how I did it. If I did that today, I think I would die. But fell in love there, met the community that was, you know, the pro scene in Denmark. So that's Danny Sonic and everyone else that was my friend group growing up in games. And then found my way into SteelSeries, the peripheral company. I was there when we were 10 people working there in Copenhagen. I think now they're 300 plus, sold 3 times. I never said yes to the warrants that they suggested me, like an absolute idiot. I wanted the pay rise instead. 20 years old. Yeah, biggest mistake, one of the big mistakes of my life. But loved working there, worked with sponsorships, went to tournaments and helped provide, you know, equipment for teams. And then I got headhunted to a Danish television startup channel that was called Pixel TV. That wanted to do esports type content. They were doing traditional games content for Danish television, and did that for 7 years. And that's where I learned to shoot, film, edit videos, and that kind of became my career, if you will. So it started off in content, but I actually thought I was going to leave gaming and esports. After I'd done that for 7 years, covered tournaments like you do now and video game press tours, etc. I also began operating everything that we had that was non-gaming related clients. So that was Red Bull or Google or in larger like commercial shoots. I would run all of that side business. So I ended up quitting and then going fully fledged, freelance one-man army. I can do any type of content for anyone all over the world. And I loved that. Did that for like a year and a half, thought this is my career path until my good friend from Astralis, Jacob Lund, formerly Wolves, we ran into each other in Copenhagen when I was back for a while. I lived in the US for a bit. And we've always wanted to work together. But there was never like a good fit. And, he pinged me a bit about Astralis in the beginning. But I wasn't sure if did I want to join a team? I'd rather tell like big stories about more teams. So I figured I'll wait. And then he came with this idea of Refresh before it existed. And I was like, okay, sounds interesting. Very big ambitions. And I love big ambitions. So I had to jump on that. So actually on my way to leaving esports, not because I didn't like it, just felt like I needed other challenges. But then probably the biggest esports tailor-made challenge for me came. And here we are.
Well, that's it. Like the people you kind of meet over the course of your life, you might not realize it, but you could end up working with these people, and
100%.
People will come into your life, people will leave your life, but at the end of the day, you meet the right people, I always think, at the right time for yourself and your own future. So I think the interesting thing is you've kind of touched every single bit of the industry then. You've been in the production side, you've been as a gamer as well, you've gone through that, and now you're in your current role with Blast.
Yeah.
When you guys were sitting down and talking about, Reflex as it was called, how did the idea of actually branding it to Blast then, and then coming up with the Blast image? And because as someone who watches esports, the Blast's image is an iconic one. It comes across. It seems to me that as a TO, you guys are really focused on the aesthetics and the product that you put out.
Yes.
So how did you come to the branding of Blast and the way things are today?
It's a great question. So I think we kind of knew, as mentioned, when Jacob approached me, there was plans of it becoming an entertainment company. I don't think we necessarily knew what that meant in all its facets, right? But quite early on, I think we saw that, okay, there's room for improvement in the esport event scene. Not because it's bad events, just because they're doing events their way. And I think I had some quite strong opinions on what could make better events. And it was interesting transitioning from this role of being director of content, I think it was, in Refresh in the beginning, obviously focusing on teams. And then we were a group of 3 or 4 people that went into a room with blank whiteboards and was given the task of trying to come up with, a league type setup and a branding and an identity. And no one in that room didn't really have the role of conceptual design, identity, aesthetics, but also the conceptual experience we're trying to create. And I kind of fell into that role, again, because it was quite opinionated. And it felt like every question that they had, I feel like I had an answer to based on what I think we should do.
Yeah.
So I think that's how I landed in the role that I then still hold today, which is like this product and innovation role that tried to push the boundaries and then tried to, do that, do that more consistently in the future as well. And I think the identity itself, that was hard. Like trying to figure out in the space of all the names that was there, ESL, PGL, Faceit was big back then as well, etc. We wanted something that felt clean, short, had some momentum, sounded like something that could become big, if that makes sense to say. And I know it's strange to say when you say it out loud, but to me that very much comes through. I didn't want any abbreviations.
Yeah.
I didn't want 3-letter abbreviation of anything. Like had to be something clean. And we just spent hours upon hours of writing crazy names up on a whiteboard. And after we'd done that exercise a couple of times, narrowed it down, we had Blast plus something, and we had like all these added things. And I think we just ended up looking at like, why don't we just call it Blast? Like, what are we trying to do? Yeah. And then we did that. And then, of course, Pro Series was the first name, and that then became Blast Premier. So it kind of makes sense. And then worked quite a lot with a Danish design agency. That's what I took a lead on in trying to create the identity to, as you said, have a bit of a minimalistic Danish Scandi type touch to it. A clean, no clutter, and a distinct look. And then I think that triangle that we've always had was meant to be like the Northern Star. We wanted to make sure that whenever a fan potentially saw that triangle, it should be, a stamp of approval, like a mark that signifies something being of better quality. And I think that's what we're trying to do just on the regular. So, I hope that answers you. It was a very long answer.
This is what I want. Whenever I do these interviews, I want to get into depth because it's about getting to know the people and getting to know the role.
Of course.
And then you got the jingle. I think everybody at this point in esports knows the Blast jingle.
Great.
Was that done internally, or was that no?
No. So I worked with a composer, and that was just me and him. And I think my girlfriend hated me at the time because the way it would work is I send a lot of emails and I can find a lot of examples of things. So I pulled like examples of themes that I loved. You know, I took something from the Battlefield 3 theme, if you remember. It had like this wah, 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 wah. And I just loved that. It sounded so evil and so in your face. Took some of that, took some Blade Runner with like the big horns, and it had to sound like aggressive, but maybe also just uplifting and slightly militant to it. So sent him all these examples, and the way he worked best, our composer, who's composed all our music, by the way, was he always calls me.
Yeah.
And I'm not that big a call guy. I prefer the email or like the message. So I think this is where our worlds collided. But I just accepted it. So I would take calls whenever he called me. So I would lie in bed and talk to him, and he would sit in the studio and play. Listen to this violin.
Yeah.
And I would lie on my phone and listen to the violin. And my girlfriend, this is like 10, 11 p.m. I'd be like, but you have like a violin that sounds sadder, like tormented almost. And he'd be like, yeah, give me a second. I'm like, okay, I'll wait. And then how about this? And I'll listen to a tormented violin.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, okay, that's better. And that's how we would kind of dissect all of what that theme became. And I think we've taken a quite strict approach to, let's call it the family of Blast's sound. So when you've heard Dota or Valorant that we've done, anything that we've done that has, you know, been an extension of that theme, has like these notes to it that kind of pulls back some of the familiarity that people will resonate with. So yeah, it was a huge thing to, you know, be inspired a bit by what E-League did with the dun 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 dun. That's like great. That's how you do it. You have to get something that's instantly recognizable, and I hope that people resonate with ours.
I think one of my favorite esports events that I've seen was when the guy who obviously worked the event came up with the guitar, the Portuguese flag, and Portugal playing it. Like, it's one of the best esports intros I've seen in a long time, because it adds more personality, more flair, and that's what it's about. So you've spoken a lot of times about CSGO and the Blast family, and now you've decided to add Siege to that. And for people who don't know, it's not just a case of going to Ubisoft, hey, we'd like to work this event. There's a lot behind it. You know, there's bidding wars, there's, you know, putting pitches to them is what you can do with the scene.
Yes.
Obviously, you've had a lot of success in CSGO. You've had success in Valorant as well.
Yep.
So that's kind of two of the big three FPS games that are out there.
Right.
You've had something to do with. So you've obviously Valorant and CSGO. Why did you want Siege? Why did you want to add that to the Blast family?
Well, I think to maybe give some context just to how we've picked games in the past, and then I'll give context to Siege as well. I think, you know, we did Counter-Strike. It took us 3 years to do any other game.
Yeah.
And that was, you know, on purpose. I think we all felt, thankfully, that we shouldn't rush into anything. When we did it, we wanted to do it right, give it, you know, the same care, love, and attention as I've explained we put into creating the Blast Premier identity and Pro Series back in the day. And I think, you know, that also meant that, you know, when it comes to a broadcast experience, you just have to be able to allocate the right amount of time to make a difference in what that viewing experience is. So I think we did some Dota, we did Valorant, we're now operating everything competitively for Fortnite, also a huge thing. But then I think when looking at Siege and our like palette of games, I think Siege has so many positive takeaways that I see in some of the greatest games of all time. And what I often look at, and especially when we build our Counter-Strike offering, is, okay, the games that are easy to understand when you look at them, easy to play, or let's say easy to at least understand what you need to do when you play, but then incredibly hard to master. I think that is like the perfect recipe for a good viewing experience when it comes to an esports game. And I think I often pull examples out, like, you know, when people get multi-kills, eliminate the other teams, do big plays, it's easy to see that that's a massive play, right? It's a little bit like basketball. We can all look at a dunk and be like, okay, that was pretty crazy. And same with like a good three-point shot, even though that's quite a technical thing in the game, right? And I think video games have the same things. There are some games where it's very hard to figure out what the hell is a dunk here? What's a three-point shot here? But I think Siege is one of those games, much like Counter-Strike and other games, that, you know, look simple and you're like, I could probably do that. And when you try to do it, like, oh shit, I have a long way to go. So just in its core, that's what excited me quite a lot. But then I think the second component to that was, when we've worked, you know, Valve is, we're working with them in one way, which is obviously probably the most hands-off in the business. What I love about this partnership is you have a traditional mega game development studio in Ubisoft, who obviously develop games in, let's call it the traditional way. It's for the average gamer sitting at home wanting to play games, right?
Yeah.
Others we work with are very much esports game developers.
Yeah.
And I think this rare combination of a traditional game development house in Ubisoft that has an esports game that, of course, also is played casually, but them taking their esports part of it so seriously.
Yeah.
You know, me and Wei, we spent countless hours just talking about what we can do and what we can change.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's not normal to have someone that actually represents esports, but he sounds like a dev when we're talking. And I think that, and aspirationally in the partnership, what we can do together, which is also what I think and hope is why they picked us. When they picked us with what we put forward, it was this idea to truly blend what is the esports offering, what is the game, and how do we make sure that those two collide into like this beautiful explosion, if that makes sense.
And I think as well, it's the fact that it's a commitment to a long-term deal.
Yeah,
you know,
100%.
You see a lot of times TOs, it'll be like a one-year commitment, a one-stage commitment. The fact that it's a multi-year deal, I think will put a lot of the fans at ease because, you know, change, some people love change, some people hate it. And I think at the same time with the multi-year deal, it's your commitment to put your own blast spin in the game and run it the way that you guys want to. And I think that's a good intro. You know, you come in, the announcement made before SI, which is where we're at right now. And you look at some of the games that have been played, and it's the perfect advertisement for esports.
Exactly.
Like the last round of the Astralis game against Koi yesterday, the venue was singing all game. But for that round, everyone was silent at the edge of the seat, going, what is going to happen? And to me, the only time you get that sort of a feeling in a football game or in other sports, now I'm a massive football fan, is an injury time in a tense game when someone's going through. But in esports, you can get that every single round sometimes.
Exactly.
And it's the people in esports too. You know, the observers, the casters, the producers, everybody comes together to do this product, which at the end of the day is the best players in the world putting their craft on camera.
100%.
It's incredible. So with that, I want to talk about the long-term plan for Siege. So as part of the pitch, you would have sat down with the way and said, this is what we want to do. So for the viewers at home, what is the long-term goal for Siege? You know, because obviously you'll have goals for this year, but then you have an idea of where you want it to be in 2-3 years as well.
Well, I think, you know, in its core of what we're trying to achieve together is kind of what I outlined before. It's trying to make sure that, you know, that there's good synergy between all these different arms operating together, right? And I think, of course, we're coming into this working with Ubisoft on everything that's going to be rolled out. I can't talk about everything.
Of course.
You'll hear a lot more very soon, so I'm sorry about that. But in its core of the partnership, it is for us to come in, you know, together, then elevate what that offering is. And I think what's quite exciting, you know, something like the 9 regions, which was, you know, announced, you know, earlier as well. You know, to me, that's exciting. You know, someone that's bold enough to try to have a true global footprint and lots of ways to play into, you know, later stages of tournaments. That combined with how we can sit and look at, okay, what are like big milestones, tentpoles over the course of the year for the game as well, right? Hopefully they will all, you know, run side by side. And when you come to events like this, that's the beauty, that there's news about the games, there's an esports tournament. It feels like a mini con almost of everything going on. And cosplaying here, that's part of what I also love about Siege, is that it's like this beautiful blend of everything that esports and gaming have to offer. So I think it's a very big focus on that. So I think it's multi-year, as you said. I think we're keeping quite an open mind into the structures that we've built, where we'll be testing some things this year. That'll then, you know, also go into the year after, and we've kept ourselves, how do you say, open to making it agile, making it flexible, and trying to be able to tweak things if they don't make sense. And I think that's again also
so
okay, crazy things going on.
Forest. Oh, I can't. That. As we can probably hear Parker in the background too, that is
going absolutely crazy.
That's why we love esports.
Yes, that is why we love esports. You know, so I think, you know, we're in synergy when it comes to what we're trying to achieve, how we're approaching this year, but also being very mindful. And this is what I love about Ubi, is that they're quite bold and not afraid of making decisions for the betterment of balance and opportunity, etc. And that's what you'll hear much more about in the coming weeks. So I think, I don't know if that answered your question perfectly. It's obviously a little bit vague because I can't talk about everything.
I think the idea is answer what you can. Anyone who's watched these podcasts know that I'm not trying to get people in trouble. I don't
feel like I'm being pulled into trouble.
Exactly. Well, you have to give out to yourself. You know, you have a stern word with yourself.
Exactly.
But I think I'm excited. Obviously, Siege has seen a lot of change. You know, gone from a 3-stage system down to a 2-stage system, which I think will improve the quality of life for players. It means that conceptually it allows maybe the people behind the scenes to focus more on these events.
Right.
But at the same time, Siege never stops. You know, we finished SI, and within a couple of weeks, we're going back to the national stage, you know, the continental stages where teams are going to try to qualify for the next major.
Yeah.
So it doesn't slow down. So with that, and things for you being very hectic, because obviously with your job it is.
Sure.
You're juggling that. You're juggling CSGO, Fortnite, Valorant, Dota as well. Is it stressful? Like, can it be difficult to juggle all these things together, especially when your role where you kind of have the overarching view of everything?
Well, I think it was stressful. I think we're at a place now where us as a company, you know, when I started, like I said, third employee, that means you're going to be doing everything. You know, all of us, we're going to have to pull our weight. Now, today, we're more than 100.
Yeah.
So I think we've grown, and I think my own journey was that I definitely knew that in the first couple of years, I knew that, okay, it cannot continue like this. Then I will actually die.
Yeah.
That was too crazy. And that was building, you know, Blast, Premier, and Pro Series and that whole ecosystem. I think now because of this growth, it also means that, you know, going from 0 to 50 employees, you usually say that that's quite an insane period, but it's an easy to manage period. And I think that's very true. 50 to 100 is much more tricky because you're dealing with essentially growth of a company, more people that need information, and how do you share that? How do you distribute workloads? But I think we've done it in quite a nice way where we have some great teams allocated to all these different things that we're doing. And me sitting with product and innovation, you know, responsibility, I have teams that are delivering across it all. So while I'm sitting here, I have a team who's in the arena talking to Ubisoft about future things and doing what they need to do. So I think, thankfully now we have a structure that allows us to operate like this. And just on myself on a personal level, I think I've burnt the candle in both ends in the first couple of years. Know that if I'd like to live like a long and hopefully happy life, I'll probably have to not do that. So I've kind of amended it, and I feel like I'm in quite a good place. I think I'm able to pull myself up on quite a strategic level, which is helpful, and that also generally just means that that'll better Ubisoft's output, it'll better Blast's output when I can kind of float above and around and try to add value across everything.
So what you're saying is while everyone else is doing really important things right now, you're chatting to an Irish guy you met 5 minutes ago about your career.
Exactly. It means I've made it, I guess.
So with that, obviously you work in esports, you love esports.
Yeah.
We're in a strange place, I think both of us, where our hobby is also part of our job.
Yes.
And with that, sometimes you can feel like every aspect of your life is esports. So it is important to kind of step away and do other things.
Yep.
So for you, whenever you're done your day, you're not at events, what do you like to do to kind of decompress and maybe step away from that world?
Right. I read a ton of books. So I think books is like a great escape for me also because it focuses me to get away from devices, get away from computers. And I play a lot of video games. Yeah. So I mean, I don't just play esports titles. I play, you know, a lot of normal AAA titles as well. And thankfully, I have, you know, my daughter is 18 now. I got her when I was 20. I'm 39 today. So it's like I have a grown-up kid who also loves playing video games. My girlfriend, we play video games together. We have a double console set up at home where we can play everything together. So I do think video games is for me still one of the great escapes. But apart from that, books. I have a dog that we love, that we walk all the time and take like extensive. It sounds ridiculous when I just say it.
What type of dog do you have though?
I'm
a dog person. So.
Okay, it's a 36-kilo Labradoodle.
Ooh, big dog.
His name is Albert. I can give you a photo and you can show it on the thing. You can edit that in.
Do.
I'll send you like a cute photo. But I think it sounds stupid, but you know, it just helps. It helps having something that needs nurturing and playing with, and that also gets me away from devices. So I'm quite a hermit, I think. I really like being by myself. I'm this like introvert extrovert mix where I love these types of settings, but when I'm done and I need to recharge my batteries, that happens alone. And that's the only way it can happen. Thankfully, my girlfriend is the same way. So yeah, a lot of reading, a lot of playing games, a lot of dog walking and playing. And yeah, I just try to unwind best as I can.
It's scary how similar it is for me. Because I love my dogs. For me, it might not be books, but it's podcasts. But it's story podcasts.
Whatever works.
It's not like this. I listen to actual stories, like audiobooks and stuff.
Nice.
And I would play games with my girlfriend, my fiancée, but she's very competitive and she doesn't game a lot. So it puts me in a tricky spot whenever I'm going easy and I still kind of win the games, and then she gets very upset because she's very competitive.
One day she'll beat you though, fair and square.
She will.
And she'll be a pain in the ass, most likely.
And then I'll retire, because she'll take my job in broadcasting.
Exactly. What kind of dogs you have?
I have 2 red setters, so Irish red setters.
What is a red setter? Is it like a hunting type dog?
Yeah, they're hunting dogs.
Okay.
So basically, they're kind of a similar build to a spaniel, but bigger.
Yeah, okay.
Big
so
dog,
like Labrador size?
long, like golden red coat. Like,
whoa.
Like, it's for lack of a better, it's a ginger dog. It's got that Irish.
Yeah, okay.
They're beautiful.
Nice.
So I have 2. I have a.
That's bold.
So here's the thing, right?
Okay.
Whenever I started going with my partner, when we started going out, we weren't allowed dogs at our home because Mum didn't like dogs. And I always wanted a dog, but I couldn't have one. So let's rub my hands. Let's get for my girlfriend's first birthday together. I'll get her a dog, and she was afraid of dogs.
Oh my God!
I came into her house on her birthday, where I had a jewelry box. So I had like
with a dog in it.
No. And so the dog was in the other room.
I was just about to say that would have been insane. Maybe one of those with like holes on the side, and it's like the box is too small, and the dog is like. Good that you didn't do that.
Yeah, don't put your dog in jewelry boxes, guys.
Yeah, don't. That sounds insane.
So
like the smallest dog ever.
We put the dog in the pup in the room with her mum.
Okay.
And I met Kira at the door.
Right.
With the jewelry box. It had a collar in it.
Okay, nice.
And the first thing she said was, "I'm not into that." But
also
no.
Careful with size, right? If it was small enough, she'd be like proposal time.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful.
So she saw the dog and they fell in love. So much so that this family who didn't like dogs, within 6 months of getting the first red setter, went to my cousin and bought one of her litter. So they have 2 red setters.
That's
now.
amazing.
A boy and a girl. And now the girl's
amazing.
9 of her years.
Yeah, okay.
And the guy is like 7 years old, Oscar and Ruby. It's dangerous when dog people start talking about dogs.
Yeah, I know. You didn't know you signed up for a dog podcast. Yeah, this is going to be about dogs the next half hour. Yeah, ours is 6 and love it. I think that's the only place where I feel a little bit bad. I travel a lot, but my girlfriend is incredible. She works from home, so I think there's this natural fit with her also taking care about her dog. But it feels like a child, like leaving her at home with a child, and I'm not home a lot to help take care of the child. That's how I feel. So sometimes I feel bad about that, but she's killing it.
So if Kira asks Ruby where I am at, she goes, "Where's Darren?" The dog will run the whole house and check every room to try to find me. Now, if I'm not there, the dog will huff.
Oh no.
If they get that dog excited about me being there and I'm not there, that dog will huff and lie under the table and will not move until I actually go to their house. So once that happens, so she's found a way to get me to her house. She's like, "Oh, but Ruby misses you." And it's like, okay, I guess.
That's a big brain play. That's very smart.
See, this is why I'm scared if she starts playing games properly. She's got a big brain.
Yeah, exactly.
She will
outsmart you real quick.
Around me pretty quickly. But I think this is the point where we're coming to the end because it's been a long episode. So I kind of want to give you the floor. So is there anything you want to tell the Siege community, directly to tell them about, you in the future season, right? Kind of maybe ease or excite them about what this year holds?
Of course. Well, I think, first of all, thank you for taking, such good care of us in arriving into the scene. I was, got emotional when seeing just a lot of the positive outbursts from, the community being excited as well, which felt great. I guarantee you we're going to deliver on that excitement. And I feel quite strongly about that. I think with the things that are going to be announced, I don't think anyone is going to be disappointed. And it's a very, very bright future ahead. So the only thing I want to say is, I say this to everyone we ever work with, any community. One thing we care truly about, and I don't just say this, we read everything, is feedback. So we are scouring subreddits, Twitter threads. We read everything, and it's helped make all of our shows better. So there hasn't been a show where we've been quite militant in taking feedback in. Of course, we listen to some of it, not all of it, and then we try to make good decisions based off of that. But whatever we do, whenever we do it, if you have an opinion about it, good or bad, let us know. We're all just looking to make it better, and that's kind of the culture we've bred in Blast, and that we always want communities to help breed as well. So take good care of us, please, and hopefully you enjoy everything that we'll do. And if not, then hit me up on Twitter. My DM's always open for good and bad stuff.
Yeah, as a viewer, as a talent member, I'm excited for what the future does hold. And if you are watching this and you want to keep up to date with everything Nico is doing, make sure to hit him up on his socials. Nico, your Twitter handle for the viewers?
Yeah, Nico the Pops. That's pretty much it everywhere, so you can find me. And as mentioned, DM is open on Twitter. So if you have any good ideas, if you want to work in esports, I try to keep pretty open door for anyone to come at me with anything. So yeah, I'm here for you.
Yep, so get him on Twitter. If you haven't followed Blast Premier as well, please do. You can catch them on Twitch as well, Blast Premier, for all of the events and other games.
Indeed.
Where, by the way, if you haven't seen the stuff that they do in Copenhagen, that the gas lift is something that excites me as someone who works.
It's always good.
Yeah. So make sure and follow them on all the socials to keep up to date with everything Blast. But Nico, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and I look forward to seeing you again hopefully soon.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And also, before we finish up, a massive shout out to our cameraman today, which is Fungus Bruce, who, if you can't see, is in full thermite cosplay. He gave up most of his luggage space to come here for cosplay for the event. So Fungus, thank you so much for this as well.
When this started, I couldn't figure out if that was security detail or if it was a good friend in cosplay. So I guess that means the cosplay is like on point. Yeah, it's both. It's a good thing. Okay, it's both. Of course. Smart. Yeah, I'll behave then.
Well, look, thank you very much. And for everyone home, thanks for watching.